Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to get rich while other people, who are just as smart, maybe even smarter, always seem to be struggling with money? Well, today we're diving into the core ideas of a book that completely changed the game for millions, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right off the bat, the book hits you with this huge clash of ideas. One dad says the love of money is evil. The other says, no, the lack of money is the real problem. And that one little twist in thinking, well, that's the starting line for two completely different lives. So the author, Robert Kiyosaki, he had this really unique childhood. He basically grew up with two dads. There was his own father, a super educated guy who was always struggling financially. And then there was his best friend's dad, an entrepreneur who would eventually become his mentor on how to build real wealth. And this is where the story gets so wild. I mean, look at the contrast. Poor dad had all the credentials we're taught to chase. A PhD, studies at Stanford, the whole deal. Rich dad, he never even finished the 8th grade. But at the end of their lives, one left a pile of unpaid bills, and the other became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. How does that happen? Well, it all came down to mindset. Poor dad's thinking was a conversation stopper. I can't afford it. That's the end of the road. But rich dad's thinking was a question. How can I afford it? That little switch forces your brain to start looking for solutions. It's a problem to be solved, not a wall to run into. So where did all these lessons actually come from? It all kicked off when Kiyosaki was just 9 years old. He asked Rich Dad to teach him how to make money. And Rich Dad's offer was interesting. He said, okay, come work for me. The job? Dusting cans in one of his stores for a measly 10 cents an hour. After a few weeks of this, young Kiyosaki was totally fed up. He felt exploited, underpaid, and he was ready to quit. He marches into Rich Dad's office, demanding a raise, just full of anger. And that was exactly what Rich Dad was waiting for. The real lesson was about to begin. And this is where Rich Dad drops this bombshell. He explains that most people's entire financial lives are run by two powerful emotions. First, the fear of not having enough money. That's what pushes you to get a job. But then, as soon as you get that paycheck, a second emotion kicks in, desire or greed. You start thinking of all the cool things you can buy, and that's when the trap is set. And this is what the book famously calls the rat race. It's this hamster wheel we get stuck on. You get up, you go to work, you pay your bills. The paycheck temporarily quiets the fear, but then desire makes you want a bigger house or a nicer car. So your expenses go up, the fear comes back, and now you have to work even harder. Getting a raise doesn't fix it. It just makes the wheels spin faster. Okay, so if the rat race is the trap, how in the world do you get out? Rich Dad taught that it all boils down to understanding one incredibly simple but powerful rule. Seriously, this is the foundation for everything else. First up, what's an asset? Forget all the complicated financial jargon. In the world of Rich Dad, it's dead simple. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. That's it. It's like a little money-making machine that works for you. And a liability? Well, you guessed it. It's the exact opposite. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, month after month. The key thing here isn't what something is, but which way the cash is flowing. And this chart really shows the whole story. For the poor, income comes in and it goes right back out to cover expenses. The middle class, this is key. They earn income to buy liabilities that they think are assets, things like their primary home or a fancy car, which just end up creating more expenses, mortgages, insurance, maintenance. But the rich, they do it differently. They use their income to buy assets first, and then those assets generate more income, which then pays for everything else. It creates an upward spiral of wealth. This brings us to another huge lesson from Rich Dad. Mind your own business. He was really clear about the difference between your profession and your business. Your profession is your job. It's what you do to earn a paycheck and pay the bills. But your business, that's your asset column. That's the part that's actually building your wealth. So how did this play out for young Kiyosaki? Well, after that first lesson, Rich Dad made him and his friend work for free. Why? To force them to stop thinking about a paycheck and start looking for opportunities. And they found one. They saw the store owner was just ripping the covers off old comic books and throwing them away. So they asked if they could have them. They took those comics, opened up a little library in a basement, and charged other kids 10 cents to come in and read. And just like that, they had created their very first asset, a little business that made them money even when they weren't around. So when you pull all these pieces together, escaping that emotional trap of fear and greed, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, and focusing on your own business, it all points to this one single fundamental shift in how you need to think about work and money. And this is it. This is the heart of the entire book. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. The goal isn't just to climb the corporate ladder for a bigger salary. The real goal is to build and buy assets until the money from your asset column is making more money than you can with your day job. That's when you're. So, to wrap it all up, it comes down to these key shifts. You've got to realize that financial education is way more important than just having money. The whole point is to stop working for money and learn how to make money work for you. And you do that by obsessively focusing on building that asset column and training your mind to spot the opportunities everyone else is too busy to see. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. A question for you. When you look at where your time, your focus, and your money goes every single day, are your habits building your asset column? Or are you spending your life building one for your boss, for the bank, and for the government? According to Rich Dad, the answer to that question changes everything.